Hello viewer and welcome to this show. It's the Bible Journey, and today we are going to be talking about the book of Genesis chapter 29. With me on set are our able panelists, our pastors. First is Pastor Kabira Wakabira. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
And next is Pastor Robert Nyamori. Welcome.
Welcome viewers.
Yeah, and of course, remember that we'll be studying this book, and there are several themes here that we want to look at. Remember, you can also find us on our social media platforms. That is on Facebook, Hope Channel Kenya is our page. On Twitter, our Twitter handle is @Hope_Kenya. You can as well find me at Nick Ratemo. Use the hashtag always, the Bible Journey. Also, you can send in your questions and your comments through the numbers that are at the bottom of your screen. As we start, I'll request that we have a short word of prayer. Mighty and everlasting Father, thank you very much for being with us as we get into this study. We pray that you may guide us from the beginning to the end. May your Holy Spirit guide our speaking, and Father, may you interpret everything into us and even to our viewers. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, welcome very much. Yeah, and now when we get to the book of Genesis chapter 29, of course we've learned that it's kind of progressive. Things are happening one after another. Event follows another. And now in chapter 29, there are several issues that are going to happen here. And still, we left in chapter 28, it leaves us where we are still on the way after Jacob realizes that, oh, kumbe God is in this place. And he names the place Luz. It was called Luz initially. He names it, he changes the name to Bethel. God is here. So after that, he makes a covenant and he makes a vow to God. Now he's still on the way, he's still moving. Now 29 is where we meet him still on the way, moving towards his destination, Padan Aram. Now what are the major themes or the sub-themes that we have in this chapter?
As a young person, this is my chapter. As a human being, this is my chapter. So the process of marriage, Jacob has talked to the parents. He has gotten advice from the parents.
Yeah.
He has sought validation from God. Now is his time. He was not given a wife by the parents.
No.
God didn't tell him, close your eyes, open, there is a wife. No. It is now Jacob's time to choose according to what he has spoken to God and according to what his parents advised him. I hope you can see the process now. Yeah, when he was ready for marriage, his parents advised him. That's chapter 28. And then chapter 29, he talked to God about it. God gave him, what is it called? A way forward. He told him like, okay, now I'll be with you. Now he was ready to marry. Talk to parents, talk to God, but also there is your own input. Now what we have here is the input of Jacob into his marriage. He didn't just rise up and say, now I want to get married. Lord, lead me. The one who I will see, the one that I will do this. No, he got really into the marriage. And within the entire process now is how we see how to get a good wife. Like we already discussed, I think in chapter 27 and I mean chapter 26 and 27, 25, 26 about Isaac. It's about how to get a good wife, how to learn to live together with family, the principles of a marriage that are there, and God being able to be with you. And it's about even patience. I'm able to see even patience of patience when it comes to matters of marriage. Do you hurry? Do you take your time? What should you be able to do? And then of course they're the children of Jacob, and we see how God is still in control of every situation, even if we think we're the ones who are in charge of everything.
Wow, Pastor Nyamori.
There are two things I'm seeing in this text. One is we must meet with God before we meet life partners. Is something that comes out. Two is most of the time God forgives our sin, but the consequences follow us.
Oh yes.
And that's what is reflected, because one of the best guys who has been lying, he now meets someone who is better than him. That's a consequence.
Wow. Now in verse 1 it says, then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field. And lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth. And Jacob said unto them, My brethren, whence be ye? And they said, Of Haran are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. And he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep, and feed them. And they said, We cannot until all the flock be gathered together, till they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. So finally, he has arrived. And when he arrives into the land of the people of the east, he goes to a well. Now, I'm trying to ask myself, when I was looking at this, I was wondering, and of course, when you read up to, they told him in verse 6, Behold, Rachel, his daughter, comes, because he asked about Laban. Laban, do you know him? They say, yes, we know him because we are from Haran. And Rachel also comes. Remember, combine this with what happened when the steward of Abraham, that is Eliezer, went to look for a wife for Isaac. He also went at the well. It happens. And then later, even when you fast forward later, you find that also Moses, he also met his wife at the well still. I'm trying to imagine and ask myself, what about the well? Why is it so crucial? Why are things happening at the well? Pastor, I can start with you.
I just want to go to the New Testament direct of what we are looking. One of the things we are told is that Christ met a woman at the well.
John 4.
John chapter 4. And things changed.
True.
And so there is actually this Jacob's well is what we are told that is in John chapter 4.
Yeah.
And so it reminds us that there is something important with the well. And it's good for us also to know that one of the places that Jacob has met with God, he has decided that I'm going to put a temple here for me to meet with God. And now it comes to a place where he's meeting again the wife to be at the well. But there's something we note from this the verses that we have just looked at. It reminds us that this well was a symbol of how God wanted to bring people together into a common place where they could have something common together. And if you look at what happens here is that when all other cattle were able to get into the well is when it was opened. That tells you there was something common with the community.
Yeah.
And it also reminds us that most of the time there's a place where God has put to meet with each one of us. He has always identified a place to meet with us. And this one, apart from what happens, it reflects and it reminds us that having that in mind, then this well had a meaning to the community and even before God.
Yeah, wow. And Pastor, if a young man was to look for a wife, a young committed man who is a Christian, would he also still need to go to a well? Because it seems when you go to the well, you find the right one.
Well, something peculiar is how this well is famous. Let me begin from the reverse. Jesus, the Samaritan woman asked Jesus, are you greater than our father Jacob who gave us this well? It really meant a lot to the Samaritans to have this well because it was a huge symbol of life. I was reading, and
So a well is a symbol of life.
the well is a symbol of life, literally.
Because of what
it will,
comes out of
what
it.
comes out of it, so that Christ will say, if you knew the what I'm going to give you, you'll not even be asking for me anything. That this well, the Samaritans regarded it as the best.
Yeah.
It was the deepest well, and therefore water did not dry up. For you to fetch water from this well, you had to be strong enough, and you had to have the patience that is required to be able to fetch from this well.
Yeah.
The same well that the Samaritan woman was in is the same well that Moses finds Zipporah in Exodus chapter 2, verse 14, 15, 16, all the way to verse 20.
Yeah.
He finds her there. Once again, Zipporah is found fetching water and feeding the sheep and mifugo hapo nyumbani. I mean, for the entire household. This well, at the same time, is where Rachel was coming. Now, allow me to
and Pastor, maybe before you go there, I still want to come back to you with the same explanation. But I want to come to Pastor Nyamori a little bit before you go. You continue the explanation and ask this. These are a people, as we are seeing something of a community that really cares for each other. And they say, until all the flock are here, that's when we roll out the stone and fetch water and water all our cattle. How does it appear to you, and in terms of communities being together?
One of the things that comes in that
Yes.
that we have we talked about communal beliefs, community beliefs, something that is very important.
Yeah.
But something that I'm seeing here is that there is unity. There's unity in a way that it's something that kept the community together. That this is the way we need to live. And so if we have to go this direction, this is what we need to identify. And so that's what Pastor is emphasizing, that this well had a significance in the community. And the significant means that it was not a well for one person.
No.
It was for community.
The whole community. So it means that we really, I think it's a lesson for us today that we really need to be together as a people, and I really need to be concerned about you. You really need to be concerned about Pastor,
Yes,
and
true.
be concerned about me, so that we, at the end of the day, we are a one people. We care for each other, and you know, communities never grow separately. Like you grow alone, you continue developing alone, and I continue being this diminished. We have to rise up together. Help me to rise up. I help you to rise up. We rise up together as a community and build our economy.
Very true.
And then Pastor, you are still talking about the well.
No, I was talking of the significance of the
Yeah.
well, but you've done it well.
Yeah.
What I want us to do is remember verse 4, what Jacob says. And Jacob said to them, my brethren, where are you from? That is very important, because we live in a world where people marry anybody, anytime, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't even have a background.
Yeah.
You get to somebody, you're talking to them, before you realize this
You're
is your
married.
sister.
Oh, yeah.
And you're already in love, way past. Now you start
And it
asking
hurts.
yourself. It happens.
Yeah.
My mother, where I come from, people say,
Yeah.
please, that's the reason as to why you ask your parents.
Yeah.
I found a girl. Know where she comes from first.
Yeah.
Have a background information of it. Don't just love for the sake of, I have found somebody beautiful, I have somebody found hardworking, but you have no background whatsoever. As a pastor, I have found something like this funny. One day, somebody comes to me and tells me, Pastor, I don't know where my husband is. I ask him, like, what does that mean? He left me and he went. I asked him, so what's the problem? The problem is I don't know where they live. He doesn't know his husband of 4 years, where they stay at home. Ajui kwao ni wapi. And I said, but you can call the home. I don't know. I don't have their father's name.
No contact.
So I asked him, how do you live if you don't know, if your husband, you don't know where they come from, you don't know anything. Look at how Jacob was. He was very, it is his time. it is his time to be careful. He wants to know them first before they can continue. Also, something
And
else.
I think he has also learned from his the mistakes of his brother Esau.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because you might find somebody love, and then you hear, this part. They may be living here, but they don't belong to him.
They are just other Canaanites.
Yes, the other Canaanites who have migrated here. Not everybody who is next to you is actually what you think.
Yeah, sure.
It is good to determine. Of course, in a church setting, we can say not everybody who is in a church is the one that you should marry. Just by which people come to church that you think, now finally have found.
No.
Who are you? Who are you talking to? The other aspect, on the same consideration of well, is how Rachel is well known. Now we know Laban had two daughters, Rachel
Leah
and Leah. And yes.
Yeah.
But something funny is they say, verse 6, he said, he said to them, is he well, about Laban? They say he is well, and look, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep. That they know this girl, being the younger one, and they don't know the older one. That it's like, you're asking about that Mzee called Laban. Oh yeah, we know him. His daughter Rachel is the one who usually comes to, and normally she comes at around this time. You know, that tells you the character of Rachel. Because number one, we know she was a virgin much later. We are able to know that. But even in her interactions, people knew her. Everybody knew her and knew her as a virtuous woman. That they were willing to wait for her until she comes. Then they are going to do what? To do all the feeding of the flock together. That's how good this lady was. Even before I go ahead on what kind of a lady she was. And no wonder this guy could not even contain himself. Like when they said Rachel is coming, you really also want to know. So this Rachel who is coming, ideally you should marry the older one, because the older one is more hardworking, is stronger naturally because he's bigger than the other one. But this younger girl used to come with the sheep of her father and flock. And the entire people knew her, that they even had to wait for her. She was quite a virtuous woman. And this is what we come to see later, Jacob even crying and saying, thank you, Lord.
That's what I even want us to move to. I think that is verse 9.
Yes.
And while he yet spoke with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, and it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. Now, number one, I was trying to, of course, before we started the program, in our discussions, we looked at this, and I was saying, as a man, I think I'm trying to understand what really drives Jacob to do this act. He rolls the stone. Of course, I would want to think that Rachel was able to do it. But now that, you can meet a woman in stage, you don't know her, you know nothing about her, but you are traveling together and she has some luggage, you'll want to help. Because you feel like, I'm a man, I need to do the hard task, I need to help. Now he does it. And then now something that moves me again is when he kisses her and lifts up his voice and cries. I don't know, Pastor, what you'd make of that. What makes him to cry?
Let me start from what Pastor pointed out. He asked a question, where are you from? And there's something we also need to know, that when a gentleman or a lady asks you, where are you from? It's not majorly that most of them mean to ask you which tribe are you from. Because sometimes we have come to a position where if I ask a lady today, where are you from? She thinks on tribal lines. This guy wants to know where I come from, so that he says no.
And it has been so because I think I've also found this offensive sometimes when people ask me, what's your name? I say, I'm Nixon. Then they want, you're the other one. The other one. What do you mean the other one? So, in the today's understanding, most of the time we don't really mean the other name, but we mean what's your tribe.
Yes.
So if I would end up saying, okay, well, I failed to answer the other one, but I say I'm a Kisi, he would be satisfied.
Yeah, that's why.
But at least the understanding here is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something that is important that we need to note. When someone asks you, where are you from? It means there's something they want to know more about you. And I'd be very happy if I'm asked that question.
Yeah.
Because you can be able to know someone who has interest to know more about you. Two, there's a very important issue that we need to note here. There are many sons and daughters today who are growing up in the city. And sometimes, for me asking, where are you from, is because I want to know, is it possible this is my cousin? And so I like the point, the way Pastor framed it, that he asked, where are you from? So that he can know that this is where God has brought me to.
This is where my parents sent me.
Yeah, my parents sent me.
Yeah.
And then I want to go direct to what you're asking. You know, the way the Bible is framed, someone may think that when I meet the lady the first time, and I've been able to know and I've liked her, by me kissing her, it means that I've expressed that I am in love with that lady. No. Actually, these were greetings. And if you look in the times in the Jewish tradition, all that, and actually even today in some cultures, even in the church, there are people, unless they give you a different kind of a hug, they have not greeted you. It's something they express out of their way of living.
Sure, sure.
And if you look at today, if you look at how young men meet today and greet each other, that's a greeting.
Yeah.
It's a different style.
Yeah.
And so one of the things
And by the way, the kiss here, you know, we also have to understand that there are different kinds of kisses.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you talk about kissed her, people will try to imagine that it's lip-to-lip kissing. But there are different ways to kiss and even, various methods. Yeah.
So actually, even taking someone's hand and kissing that hand.
Yeah.
So we don't know what happened, but we are told what we know, it was not romantic.
No.
That romantic kissing. And so he lifted up his voice and wept. There's something that is very
Is it
interesting.
love that is making this guy to weep, or what is it?
There's something very interesting, Pastor, with the love. I've seen people get baptized, and when they get out of water, some of them shed tears. Because of what? It's because of love.
Wow.
The first time you meet Christ, there are sometimes we make calls. And because you have preached and this person has met Christ, that person walks down the pulpit shedding tears because of the love that person has seen in Christ.
Wow.
And this is something that happens that it's very interesting, that the first time you meet a lady and you have asked God, and God tells you this is the lady, I'll tell you, even if you are a man, you will shed tears.
Thank you, Pastor. We are coming back on that, Pastor. We'll still concentrate on that particular area, because I see a number of things that might have pushed Jacob to cry. And of course, Pastor is already mentioning one, which I think is really true. And of course, our dear viewer, we are coming back on this show. It's called The Bible Journey. Remember, we are studying the book of Genesis, chapter 29. Get us on our social media platforms: Facebook page, Hope Channel Kenya, Twitter handle @Hope_Kenya. Coming back shortly. Welcome back, our dear viewer, to the show, The Bible Journey, studying the book of Genesis, chapter 29. We were still looking at, we were told that Jacob lifted up his voice and cried. He kissed her, lifted up his voice and cried. And of course, Pastor, you are talking about the love effect. Love makes you, you know, like you already alluded to, even when you love Jesus Christ, you even shed tears. When you see a woman that you love, sometimes you can shed tears, and you said even if you are a man, you still do it. And I don't know, Pastor, do you agree with this? And maybe what more would you say? What makes him to cry?
The shortest verse, Jesus wept.
You just summarized it like that.
If Jesus wept, it tells you, like, sometimes the emotions catch up with you, especially of different varieties. But it reminds me on every time from verse 10 to verse 12, there is mother's brother. It's repeated as if it doesn't have a value, but its value is in fulfillment of the questions, my brethren, where are you from? So now the answer is in when he realizes Rachel is here, he is from my mother's brother. The Bible says
Laban his mother's brother.
Laban his mother's brother. It repeats again, Laban mother's brother, again mother's brother. It's like now to emphasize, like, this is exactly the lineage we are talking about. But I wanted to talk about, on the same angle, there is a time lapse we may not see. From verse 10, it says, when Rachel came, Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban and his mother's brother, that Jacob went near, rolled the stone from the wells, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. I have already experienced mother's brother. But what he did, he didn't cry when he saw her at first. He didn't weep when he saw her at first. He worked with her. He fed the flock for a time. He must have been buying time to look at this lady, understand, strike up a conversation with her. And when Jacob finished this, he kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. It wasn't a one-off. It wasn't, it may have been love at first sight, but a very rational love at first sight. Like, let me think first. I know, you know how you say, I am confused. Wacha nifunge macho nifungue tena. Is it okay? Let me begin. Fed this flock. He was also giving time Rachel. How do I know? Because of verse 12 says, and Jacob, that is when he told Rachel that he was her father's relative, that he was Rebekah's son. So she ran and told her father. When he saw her first, he didn't even do anything. He just saw her and decided to feed the flock. You don't have to do good because you're about to marry somebody. You don't have to do good just because I'm going to marry you. He didn't even know if this lady would agree or not. He was just quiet. So he just did his work. And the lady is looking at this guy. He's looking at this guy. Then when the guy said, and I'm sure it was the suggestion of, that's why I have come. You don't come to visit a girl for no reason, just because that this is my cousin. No. When Rachel learned that, what is it called? That Jacob had come for her, he ran away. She ran away. That is like, she didn't run away fast because there was nothing. There was no discussion. Otherwise, why would she run? But immediately she learned that now the story is about marriage. She ran away to inform what? The parents. You can see two young people basically courting. This is courtship. Well, we may say it's very short-term courtship, but it's long-term in that everybody gets to learn about the other. There is nothing like, come, let me marry you because God has sent me. No, it's she learns of each other. When she learned of this is when she runs to the mother, just like what Rebecca also did, ran to her parents to be able to inform them. Where the part about kissing, and look at verse 13, says, the same Jacob, when he met Laban, what did he do? He ran to him, embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. It's a greeting. But to Rachel, there was much more emotion attached to it. You know, you rarely lift up your voice unless you emotionally charged. So the emotions have come. He's talked to this girl. He's done everything. He probably is even praying now that he already has a direct connection with God. And then God tells him, I think that's a good girl for you to marry. Then he can't just contain that joy.
Yeah.
You know, like you're there kneeling down on one knee and you're telling the girl, will you marry me?
Yeah.
Normally what happens? Many girls cry and start shouting and screaming, yes. Because, you know, it's a very powerfully packed emotional time.
Yeah.
You know, he's journeyed. Remember, this guy has journeyed. He's come from his place. He told God, if you'll return me to my father's house. That's what we read in chapter 28.
Yeah.
And so here he is come, and then everything has been done. It's not something small, it's something big.
Wow. And I also see something else. You see, in verse 1 of chapter 28, Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. So, number one is what we've talked about, that there is love, and he finds that God has guided me to the right house, to the right person, and here she is. Now she's like amazed like Eliezer, and when Eliezer looked at the girl, give me to drink, she gives him as he had prayed. If she does that, then she's the one. She also goes ahead to fetch water and water the camels. Then he looks at her and he's just amazed, and he's just there astonished how God has fulfilled his promise. And him also, I can see the same thing. This is the same person that I was directed by my father and mother, that go to the house of Laban, thy mother's brother. And I've gotten her. She's from that particular house. She's a beautiful lady. She's well-mannered. She's hardworking. She's all this. She's the right girl. He must cry. Yeah. And then there's the other issue of, this is actually my cousin. These are our own people. The emotional connection. This is our family. Yeah, when you get to a person whom you've really missed, or you just heard about, you've been hearing about, and it's your relative, sometimes you really get emotionally charged. And that is why I think my reason number 2 would be the emotional connection to a family member that he has been hearing about. Yeah. So, and then, but coming down to verse, that is in chapter 29, 29 verse 15. Of course, Rachel runs and informs the father, and then the father comes and embraces him and kisses him, and then there is something, he comes and abides with them. And verse 15 says, And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I'll serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days. Mark that. They seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. Now, here we are basically talking about love. He says, What shall I give you if you serve me? He says, I'll serve you for your younger daughter, Rachel, 7 years. Then you shall give her to me. And it concludes by, he served him, and this year seemed as nothing to him because of the love. Pastor.
It's interesting. I don't know how to approach it, but let me just point something, because I have...
Just imagine yourself in those shoes.
There's something I've noted. For the years I've known, the friends I've had, there are people who have waited for even 10 years to get married to their life partners. Why? It's not that they were not able to do that within a year or 2 years.
It's not because there were no other girls around.
There were no other girls. It's because of this love that can make you wait. And there's something that we have subjected ourselves from verse 1 that comes out, and the pastor illustrated that and said, if it was, let me put this word, infatuation, it could have been out of, they meet immediately and they start having a connection, but there was time.
Yeah.
And out of that time, this one tells us that now what we are looking at is true love. And actually, true love waits.
True.
Because that's what we see now, that is something that has to wait. And even if it's going to take 7 years, this man is ready to wait.
Wow.
What does that tell us? It tells us most of the time we need to wait. As much as we have seen it's the best that we need, God has given us, God also wants us to wait upon Him. To tell us and to guide us in the way He wants us to go. And that's why it's very important. We are not saying that you need to wait for 7 years for you to get married. But what God is saying, wait upon me. I'll make these things come to pass. And also something that comes in. The tradition, knowing the history, it was that a gentleman could not marry the second daughter before the first one. But this is now where we are getting into to know what comes out. Because Jacob has met who? Rachel is the second daughter in that family. But the tradition was that you cannot take this second unless the first one has been able to get married.
Now, before you get that, of course, you've talked about, and you really mentioned it, and I really want to have the verse here in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4. It says, charity suffers long. Of course, this is King James Version. This is love still, charity. Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself. It is not puffed up. Of course, the first bit, charity suffereth long. It
That is
really
patient.
waits. It's patient. Yeah. Now, Pastor.
I like Jacob. He's a smooth operator. Verse 14 says, Laban said to him, surely you are my bone and my flesh. He established a connection with the father. And then he stayed for 1 month doing nothing. You know, that's what... so he has 1 month. He's quiet even. So the suggestion comes from Laban himself.
Yeah.
You don't have to work for so long. Why do you want to work for that long? And then I can imagine Jacob thinking, yeah, maybe I could work and then you give me Rachel. Will that be fair?
Yeah.
You know, his whole idea was he didn't want to be seen as if he's visiting his in-laws just for what?
Yeah.
just for a wife and then go away.
No,
you know,
no.
it also, as you're saying, it looks rude. You just come, you're here because of a need. He sat down for a month as family. Remember, as you said, this is a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of us, you know, during weddings is when we see real uncles who just appear out of nowhere. That's when now they want
I'm
to
also
say,
your uncle.
I'm also your uncle. We will negotiate dowry, blah, blah. Yeah. Here is Jacob quiet for 1 month until Laban says, it's not good for you to work for me for free.
Yeah.
And then Jacob, that's why he says, Jacob then says, okay, then how about I work for 7 years for, you know, for you, this one that I love.
Yeah.
And then it makes sense. What I'm able to see here was a couple who are patient enough to wait for the opportune time.
Yeah.
It's not people who are in rush to get married. You meet today up Kencom, and then tomorrow in the evening you're already staying. As a lady umekuja na handbag iko na vitu za kulala, you've already started staying. That's a problem with the current generation we are in. Nobody is willing to wait even for a little while to know somebody. And as he said, if you're able to love somebody for 7 years, then it's really
That is
genuine.
true love.
Because many of us,
It's not
1 year or 2
infatuation.
years, you are complaining that he doesn't want to marry me. It's because you're already a wife. Before I made you a wife, you've already become a wife. The ladies we have nowadays, sorry to put it like that, are willing to be a wife even before they are a wife. They cook, they wash, they do everything. They come in the house, arrange it, they sleep inside there, they give everything. So the man even thinks, why am I working so hard for somebody who's already come after all? But that's what I was able to appreciate on this. This was really genuine love that could not even be broken by other virtues. To him, it didn't matter. I'm also talking about men who are lazy, who don't want to do anything, who don't want to appreciate the parents of a girl. You see a girl, you don't want to pay dowry. You just want to elope with her, then come and live with you. Parents every day are calling you, na kwani ulienda wapi? You don't want to go back to the parents to appreciate.
Yeah.
Here is a guy who is willing to work for 7 years. Even if it's for this girl, it doesn't matter as long as I get what I came here for. There's no need for you to hurry up. There's no need for me to hurry up and live without who. If I really love my wife, no, I love my wife. Let me put it like that. I love my wife. I'll do anything for her.
Yeah.
For real, as we speak, maybe as she listens, she likes listening to me at this time. I'll do anything for her.
Yeah, tell her.
Helen, I'll do anything for you.
Yeah.
That I know.
Yeah.
But that's what Jacob was trying to do.
She is lucky.
Anyway, I just like this lady was lucky.
Yeah.
Can I say the lady was lucky as well as the gentleman was lucky?
Yeah.
Also, she was faithful for the 7 years. That's very important we remember. This lady was willing to wait for this guy. He has nothing, but he was willing to wait for her for the 7 years. Girls nowadays, you go like this, as you come back, Alisha tells you, I didn't know you will, because this agreement was between the father and the son and Jacob. The girl was not even included, but the girl was willing to keep that promise that she kept to him. For 7 years, I'll wait for you. And then, of course, the father comes and exchanges it.
Wow. And that's where I want us to go to, because you have agreed as gentlemen.
Yes.
We've agreed, assuming that you are Laban and I'm Jacob. We've agreed, and you've asked me what do you want to labor for, and I say, okay, let me labor, and then you'll give me Rachel, your daughter, to be my wife. And then at the end of it, he asks, give me my wife, and then he gives him Leah. Now I'm trying to imagine how deceptive we can be, and it seems these celebrations were normally done at night, and then she is covered in so that you can't be able to tell whether it's who it is. Actually, you can't really identify the person. So he gives her Leah, and then it's only after they have had that mutual intimate relationship that he discovers, it's not the person that I really labored for. Pastor, how do you take this, that what Laban, the actions of Laban, and they lead Jacob into doing something that I don't think he would have done?
Allow me just to go back a little bit to verse 17. It says, Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was beautiful of form and appearance. There's something sometimes we try to forget, and we try to put it down, that there's no need of you can just marry someone. Appearance doesn't mean anything, or form. There's a purpose why this verse is put here. Jacob didn't look at that appearance, because the Bible doesn't tell us. But there's something that is very important, and Pastor will accept that with me. There's something that is happening in the world today, and it's good for us to know. It's good for you to get married to someone whom you appreciate, who he is, who that lady is, or a gentleman. Don't get married to someone and then 2 months, 2 years behind, after 2 years, you start admiring other people. Because that person doesn't make you.
Doesn't please you now.
Doesn't please you in any way. It's good for us to also note that it's good for you to go for the best which God has put for us. And that one doesn't mean that we need to go for appearance. But it's important for us to ask God, give me something that I can appreciate every time for the years to come.
So beauty is important to consider. She has to be beautiful.
Yeah, you have to look at her and say she's beautiful.
Yeah, because I can imagine I marry an ugly woman, and then every morning I wake up, I see that same.
You're regretting every
I keep on regretting. What did
actually,
I marry?
one later said, I need to say that it's good for you if you don't like a lady's ears, don't marry. Because in questioning marriage, you'll have issues in marriage, and then you'll remind her that she has something you don't like. It's good for you to go for the best,
sure,
which God has put in place for us. But I want to put that in place so that we know where appearance and forms comes is actually towards the end.
Yeah.
It is not even considered in the past. In the verses we have just looked. What is considered is what we started with in chapter 28. The communal belief that is very important.
The principles, when you highlight them from the first to the end, I think beauty comes in the remaining, the last quarter.
Yes.
But there are other principles that you should consider.
Yeah, so
first.
the principles that comes out are the ones that God has put first, not us. And one of the principles you look at and you see it clearly coming out is the belief, which we look at today as a religion. We can look it at as in perspective of a church setup and all that. And then I'm coming to the question that you have just asked. It's about
Laban's actions. What do you make of that?
Laban actions. And I'm putting it that Laban, good tradition is supported by the Bible. But bad tradition gets out of the Bible.
So do you see this as good or bad tradition?
One of the things that happens is that we are told that at that time the tradition was that the first one could not get married, the second one could not get married before the first one.
Yeah.
But the question I have, as much as this was something that was in, then it tells you something. Laban knew he could have told Jacob before he worked for the 7 years.
Yeah, it would have been better.
It could have been better.
Yeah.
Because if he had told him, he could have known that I'm going to work for 14 years, then I get this lady. But he told him, work for 7 years, you'll get Rachel, and then later he changes. And so one of the things I'll say, it's a tradition that is good. It's a tradition that was good. That this is something that you need to come for. Why? Let me point it out. Is something that we have also seen. When you get that there are 3 daughters in a family, the second one and the third one have been married, and the first one is not yet married. What happens in the community? She's looked down.
Yeah. People look at her like she has a problem.
She has a problem. Maybe she's not able to so many stuff. And so why do we put this? We put it as one of the good tradition that was good at that time. But the issue we have,
it's not that it's so prescribed in the Bible, but it's a good tradition.
It's a good tradition that was there. But something that comes out that also captures my attention is now how Laban moves. And this is where we come to who was Jacob. Jacob had deceived. He had taken a birthright that didn't belong to him. Now Laban is catching up with him.
Yeah, in Swahili they say pwagu hupata pwaguzi.
And now is actually, for me, Pastor, is because Laban is reminding Jacob, remember what you did,
what you've done.
Now this is
twice. And Pastor, you know, okay, true. He's suffering the consequence also of his lies. You can see that clearly. He's suffering the consequence. The other thing is, I see a true love here also, and I don't know what you'd say about that, because Laban says in verse 26, and Laban said, it must not be so done in our country. Okay, let me start from verse 25. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah, and he said to Laban, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Did I not serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, it must not be done so in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. 27. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her handmaid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. You can see what love can push you, a man to do. That 7 more years I'll still serve you because of her, and he's okay doing that. Maybe as we summarize because of time. Yes.
Time is up.
Yeah,
Okay.
time is up.
Leah, and now I will begin with the principle of marriage. No sex before marriage.
True.
That's how
Right.
Jacob did not know it's Rachel. He didn't know her, absolutely, Leah, until when she was brought. This is not Rachel. And then the Bible also explains again in verse 29 and 30, even after he gave, he went into her and loved Rachel again. Like, despite all that, despite living together, despite staying in the same household, they were not even tempted to do anything until he was given Leah and Rachel as a wife formally. That's very important. It's not even for discussion. That is not part of discussion. Of course, secondly is, can I say the irony of Jacob saying, "Why have you deceived me?" You know, like, how do you say, "How have we deceived?" Basically, he knows how to deceive. Now, you know, I every time I say this, I will imagine him seated like, 7 years. Why have you deceived me? Do you know working for 7 years what it means?
Yeah.
None of us. I have worked as a pastor for, this is my 9 years. If somebody told me, sorry, we were just playing with you, this is when you're beginning to work, you know how angry I will be.
Yeah.
You know, just basically, or somebody, you know, you have a wife and then all of a sudden you're told, sorry, I was just joking with you. Jokes are not supposed to go past 1 minute.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they no longer are jokes. They become something serious.
Yeah.
For 7 years, that has been something special. That is, I just like Jacob for, you know, even if he was deceived, his target, he didn't wave from his target. I'm still going to do the same. And anyway, because of time, it seems, therefore, Laban really didn't like Jacob. That's what I've seen, because from there on, he fights with Jacob. He has a problem with, even Jacob now has to run away from him. He deceives him again, and he has to work for 6 more years. The Bible says Jacob worked for Laban a total of 20 years.
20 good
It's not really fair.
Yeah, it isn't.
Talks to some parents who are like this. They wanataka kunyanyasa the son-in-laws. Bring this, buy this, do this. And the list of the things you will do before you get that lady are just so huge that
It's
the
as
burden
if you
is
are
now.
being punished.
Yeah, you're not being punished. It's like you've not grown up. It's like you didn't grow up with the parents. They say, tulimfikisha masters, tulimfanyie. It's like for you, you didn't go through all that. But Jacob, funny enough, he was willing to go through all that. Sometimes also maybe for us men, we need to humble ourselves. When our in-laws punish us a lot, we need to humble ourselves. But it's not really fair on fathers. Because what you're doing is you're estranging your own daughter. The one who suffered in all this was not Jacob, was not Laban, but it was Rachel.
Rachel, yeah.
That is a problem.
And again, now, because Pastor, as you summarize, just talk on, you know, this one led to also Jacob becoming polygamous. And I think it wasn't God's ideal plan for marriage. In just a minute as we wind up.
It's something that I know we are speaking to a lady outside. Maybe we sign a polygamous family. And it's important for us also to note this. Maybe there is a gentleman outside there who is polygamous. As much as the Bible puts clear of what happens in Genesis chapter 1, 2 to 3, of what God's intention was, all this came because of sin. God's plan was for a man, one woman, and one wife. When we come to this, we see the consequences of having a polygamous family, as much as we end up in that family. And it's true that maybe our viewers know what has happened in a polygamous family, what comes with that. But it's something that we need to note, that God's intention was for us to know how to live with what he had said in Genesis. But where does this put us? It puts us in a place where we need to know that sin is forgiven, but consequences remain with us.
True.
Whether we like it or not, the consequences will remain with us. It doesn't mean that how far we have gone, but it means that we can rectify what we have done and give God a chance to work in our lives.
Wow.
Thank you.
True.
Wow. Thank you very much. And maybe I wanted to read something there as we wind up, where there is a commentary about verse 28. And maybe I should start with, this is from the SDA Bible commentary, and it says about Genesis chapter 29, verse 28, the bigamy. At the same time, Jacob's double marriage cannot be justified on the ground that the blessing of God eventually made it the means of multiplying Jacob's seed and so fulfilling his promise. God simply overruled the errors of men. Even this could not thwart his purpose. The bigamy that had been occasioned by Laban's deception and Jacob's affection brought friction and regret to the homes of both men. It is in this school of affliction, Jacob learned that the way of transgressors is hard. The jealousy and misery attending his marriage are a commentary on Moses' specific injunctions against a man marrying two sisters concurrently. So you can see, of course, how it is sums up everything about his marrying. Even, they ended up being married, two sisters to the same man. But thank you. Maybe there are some verses that we haven't touched on, especially starting from verse 31 onwards. And I think this one will be combining it with the chapter 30 when you look at it next time. So thank you very much, of course, for being with us and for shedding much light on this particular chapter. And our viewer also, we are grateful for your time being with us from the beginning to the end. We've come to the end of our study today of the book of Genesis chapter 29. I hope that you have learned much. Remember to drop us a comment on our social media platforms. That is our Facebook page, Hope Channel Kenya, our Twitter handle at Hope_Kenya. You can also find me at Nick Ratemo. Thank you very much. Maybe Pastor Kabira, a word of prayer.
Thank you, God in heaven, for the opportunity to read your word. Bless our families, and for the young people, bless them also who are contemplating getting into marriage. And at the same time, walk with us throughout our life, for we pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for being with us. God bless you.